Greetings and welcome back to Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Have you ever noticed how the biggest stories always seem to break when the cameras are pointed elsewhere? While the media was busy foaming at the mouth over Trump's weekend golf swing, something far more explosive hit the intelligence circuit, a handwritten CIA note. Yes, handwritten. That's now surfacing, and it could blow the lid off of one of the dirtiest political setups in modern history. CIA Director John Ratcliffe isn't tiptoeing anymore. He's putting names on the record. Clinton-Brennan-Comey, the very architects of the 2016 election narrative, now stand accused of knowingly pushing a false story. We're talking about a coordinated smear campaign, not just a political gamemanship. Let this sink in. This note was reportedly penned by then CIA Director Brennan himself, briefed to Obama in the Oval Office, and it outlines a strategy to tie Trump to Russia. Not based on intel, no, but on opposition research. Manufactured, scripted, sold to the American public as gospel. Meanwhile, while that circus dominated headlines, Trump was behind closed doors finalizing a $200 billion trade pact with the European Union. That's not just a handshake. That's a jobs and manufacturing pipeline for Americans coast to coast. So ask yourself, what kind of leadership gets vilified while exposing corruption and building the economy? And why is the media allergic to accountability? This is not conspiracy, it's confession on paper.
In the summer of 2016, U.S. intelligence intercepted Russian intelligence talking about a Hillary Clinton plan to falsely accuse Donald Trump of Russia collusion, to vilify him and smear him with what would become known infamously as the Steele dossier. And Maria, this intelligence was so explosive that John Brennan briefed President Obama, Vice President Biden, Jim Clapper, James Comey, the entire national security team, telling them about this Hillary Clinton plan.
So here's where it gets even darker. Not only was the scheme to frame Trump known inside of the highest levels of U.S. intelligence, but Russia knew about it too. That's right. According to declassified notes uncovered by Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe, Brennan himself jotted down in a 2016 brief that Russia was fully aware of Hillary Clinton's plan to link Trump to Moscow. Let that sink in for a second. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't opinion. This was documented by the CIA director in real time. And those notes, they were presented directly to President Obama in the Oval Office. So, the top levels of our government knew it was fake and let it roll anyway? Now, you're probably asking, why hasn't anyone been charged? And that's a fair question. Some of the statutes of limitation may have expired since original events go back almost a decade. But here's the twist. Both Brennan and Clinton testified before Congress within the last 5 years. That opens up a whole new legal door. In fact, testimony under oath resets the clock in some key ways. So this isn't just an old scandal collecting dust. This could still have legs, maybe even consequences. Keep watching, because what comes next might shock you.
I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And Maria, part of why this is so important is the people behind this are still furthering the conspiracy. They're refusing to admit or acknowledge what they did in 2016 and what they did in 2020 was wrong. And so I think that's why this is so important and why I'm excited about what the American people will see very shortly and what's to continue to come.
So what does this all mean? It means that they played the game too hard, and now they're cornered by their own moves. What was once a political tactic might now be crossing into criminal territory. Trump's former impeachment attorney isn't mincing words. He says, if this evidence holds, if the handwritten notes and declassified briefings check out under scrutiny, then folks like Brennan, folks like Clapper, and others could be looking at serious charges. We're talking seditious conspiracy, obstruction of justice. These aren't slap on the wrist offenses. No, these are the kind of federal charges that land people in prison. And let's be real, this wasn't some backroom chat or vague allegation. This was a coordinated information campaign involving intel officials, fake dossiers, and media complicity, all with the intent to kneecap a sitting president and deceive the public. You know, if the system has any integrity left, this should be a legal reckoning, not just a headline. So ask yourself, how deep does this go? And are we finally going to see the house of cards collapse?
If the evidence really shows what is being talked about now, and it can be proven, then certainly those others could be charged with seditious conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. 2384, undermining our government, undermining the will of the voters, certainly obstruction of justice, certainly perjury. They would all be entitled to the presumption of innocence, but those are the kinds of charges that could be brought.
You know, instead of coming clean, instead of facing the music, what did the Democrats do? They pivoted, and they pivoted hard, just like clockwork. From the Russia hoax to the laptops, Russian disinformation, to pretending the Epstein client list was just another tabloid distraction. Every time the walls close in, they change the subject. It's not strategy, it's the way they survive. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at NBC's Kristen Walker. She practically leapt out of her chair to run defense for Obama. That's not journalism. That's like some sort of weird damage control. Like the media's job is to protect power, not to question it. The script is always the same. Distract, deny, deflect. Instead of reckoning with the evidence, real names, real notes, real briefings, we get theater. Panels spinning narrative, hosts raising their voices, outrage on cue. Why? Because if the public ever truly connects the dots, if they ever realize how deep the deception runs, it's not just politicians who fall, it's the entire apparatus.
Senator, as you know, former President Obama has weighed in through a spokesperson. He says that's just patently false. I actually spoke to Susan Miller, who's a former senior CIA officer who helped oversee the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian interference. She says it's completely false that Obama or anyone else asked them to change or sway their investigation. She says they all, she says, and she's a Republican, says they all would have quit if that had happened. Senator, are you trying to rewrite history to distract from the Epstein matter, Senator?
No, I'm trying to let you know and the media know that we found something we didn't know before. At the end of the day, I'm not calling for a prosecution against President Obama for treason, but I am calling for an investigation. I don't like your analysis. Russia wasn't involved here in 2016.
Senator, you're saying there's something new. This report goes back to 2020. It's 5 years old. There's actually nothing new in this report and nothing that changes any conclusion. But I want to talk about Gaza.
Turned over is new to me.
Senator,
it's new to me.
But Senator,
you're trying to sweep this stuff under the rug, and that's not right.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What happened to journalism? What happened to the news? What happened to the facts? We're trying to correct the record. We're trying to do this with facts, not feelings. And what's truly hysterical is how desperate they are to pretend it's still 2017. Same tired script, same hollow outrage. They've got no counter argument. So they deflect. And when that doesn't work, they launch into the golf drama. Yes, golf. Liberals on social media completely melted down over Trump swinging clubs in Scotland as if the Republic rises or falls on a 9-iron. Meanwhile, you got Karen Bass out of the country when she knew her city was possibly about to burn down. One user actually posted, and I quote, "Reminder, while America is struggling under skyrocketing prices that he promised to lower, brought on by his own asinine tariffs, Trump is off golfing in Scotland. That lazy, grifting," and I'll stop there because the rest is just vulgar nonsense. Meanwhile, CNN's anchors were practically breathless covering every swing of Trump's club, conveniently ignoring the fact that he was finalizing a historic EU trade deal while they ranted. Now contrast that with Biden. Week after week, he's photographed wandering barefoot across Delaware beaches like he's on a permanent vacation. Where was the outrage then? You see, the double standard it's egregious. It's right there in your face, and they think you're stupid, so they don't care. Because it's not about golf. It's about control of the narrative.
President Trump is back on the golf course here in Scotland this morning at Turnberry. He'll be playing golf for a couple hours before he is heading into a very important and critical meeting with the chief of the European Commission.
You know, I'm so glad that Trump doesn't get frazzled by what these people say. Because just minutes after the left was foaming at the mouth, yipping and yapping, firing off tweets and think pieces about golf clubs and taxpayer dimes, President Trump closed a massive tariff agreement with the European Union. Yeah. So while they were screaming disgrace, he was locking in billions in trade benefits, real leverage, real results. This deal wasn't just symbolic. It meant American manufacturers got expanded across to European markets while leveling the playing field on steel and aluminum tariffs. That means jobs. That means exports, economic strength, all negotiated while the media was hyperventilating about something that had nothing to do with anything. You see, that's the irony, guys. While they were too busy counting golf strokes, Trump was counting trade wins. The same people yelling he's doing nothing, we're watching in real time as he reshaped global commerce. So you have to kind of ask yourself, who's really out of touch? I don't think that they're out of touch. I think that they're just controlled, being paid by someone to try to convince us that Trump is not doing anything for us and is just wasting our time and burning up our tax dollars. So you really do have to ask yourself, who's really out of touch, the man on the course or the media glued to it?
We are agreeing that the tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%. We have the opening up of all of the European countries, which I think I could say were essentially closed. I mean, you weren't exactly taking our autos, you weren't exactly taking our agriculture. They're going to be purchasing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment. Very important, they're going to purchase $750 billion worth of energy. So that's going to be great. And $600 billion worth of investments into the United States over and above what they have. So, and I think that basically concludes the deal.
Now, this wasn't just a handshake. No. This was a headline. This was a landmark deal. 0% tariffs on U.S. goods. Let me say that again. 0. That means American-made products flooding into European markets without the heavy price tag. That's a game changer for farmers. That's a game changer for factory workers and small business exporters. But it didn't stop there. The European Union also agreed to purchase hundreds of billions of dollars in U.S. military equipment. Think planes, think tanks, think missile defense, real contracts, real jobs, and real security ties. On top of that, we're talking $600 billion in EU investment back into American infrastructure and another $750 billion in U.S. energy purchases. Oil, gas, clean tech, all of it. Now compare that to the media frenzy over Trump's golf swing. That's what they distract us with. That's the difference between golf and golf with results. Even the EU's top officials, who are definitely not fans of Trump, had to admit it. They praised his negotiating chops. They gave credit where credit was due. So while critics were mocking him on the green, he was changing the global balance sheet, America First style.
I want to thank President Trump personally for his personal commitment and leadership to achieve this breakthrough. He's a tough negotiator, but he is also a deal maker.
So I guess you're probably wondering right now, yeah. But are these deals actually helping America? Well, let's talk about it. Enter economist Scott Bessent, former chief investment officer at Soros Fund Management, who's no MAGA cheerleader at all, but he even had to admit President Trump's economic policies are working. Bessent pointed to the numbers. U.S. GDP growth under Trump was consistently outpacing Europe and even parts of Asia before COVID hit. Unemployment hit record lows across multiple demographics: Blacks, Hispanics, Asian Americans. Wage growth was rising fastest for blue-collar workers, not Wall Street. Manufacturing confidence, highest it has been in decades. And those trade deals, they didn't just make headlines, they shifted supply chains. They brought production back home. That's not theory. That's boots on the ground economic transformation. So the next time someone tells you Trump was just a TV president, ask them why economists like Scott Bessent, people who follow the money, not the polls, are saying policies delivered. You see, the numbers don't lie. But sometimes the media does.
We had the first June budget surplus since 2015. Last month, we reported it this month, and so we are taking in substantial income. So President Trump is creating this leverage by saying, if you don't want to negotiate with me, I've sent you a letter with a high rate. Have at the high rate, or come and negotiate in better fashion.
So while Trump keeps winning on the world stage, the Democrats are still in the kitchen throwing spaghetti at the wall, praying something finally sticks. Policies, scandals, sound bites. It's chaos theater at this point. And speaking of theatrical, here comes California Governor Gavin Newsom, stepping up with his best worried uncle routine. You know the look, eyebrows raised, sleeves rolled up, delivering platitudes with polished hand gestures. But behind the performance, there's no clear plan. Just more buzzwords about threats to democracy and protecting norms. What norms exactly? California's skyrocketing homelessness? Failing public schools? Businesses fleeing the state in record numbers? You see, while Trump is over in Europe securing trade, energy, and defense deals, Newsom is doing press tours and filming Instagram videos trying to look presidential while his own state, our state, my state, struggles to keep the lights on, quite literally. So while one side is landing deals, the other side is landing headlines. But we don't want to dwell on that. We know the difference between optics and outcomes.
More and more evidence every single day. He's lost a step. This is not the same Trump 1.0. This is something's off, increasingly off. And he's unmoored in ways, even like Trump standards, I haven't seen. I don't want to overstate this moment, but you can't understate this. Something ain't right, as they say.
Funny thing is, that's what we say about Gavin Newsom here in California. The ones of us who are willing to be honest about what's going on. You know, a new study came out showing that California's $20 minimum wage law for fast food workers, which took effect only a few months ago, has already cost the state over 18,000 jobs since April. That's not speculation. That's real people losing work, real businesses closing or cutting hours. And don't get me started on the housing crisis. It's so bad that U-Haul literally ran out of trucks. That's right. People trying to leave our great state of California can't even rent a moving van. When demand to escape a beautiful state like this overloads the rental market, you know something is seriously wrong. Then there's the spike in violent crime and drug addiction flooding the city streets, turning once thriving neighborhoods into battlegrounds, and who's bearing the brunt? The middle class. The middle class who are packing up their lives and moving to red states that offer better schools, that offer better and safer communities, and of course, lower taxes. They're taking their businesses. They're taking their tax dollars. They're taking their futures with them. And if that's what you call progress, Newsom, I'd hate to see what failure looks like. Anyway, there you have it. The media's distractions, political smokescreens, and the real deal behind the headlines. While the left flails with tired narratives and cheap theatrics, real leadership is making moves that matter, building trade, creating jobs, and standing firm in the face of relentless attacks. California struggles, the Democrats pivot, and the truth keeps rising to the surface. The question is, will American people wake up and demand accountability? Or will they stay trapped in the spin cycle? Anyway, I'm Wolf Kage, and this has been Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until the next time, peace.